breaking news. Donald Trump signs historic Gaza peace plan.
President Trump now signing that historic Gaza deal. Let's listen in.
Some were brought in and some were not. And they're working out to find out where those bodies are. It's hard to believe that you even have to say something like that. It's so sad. It's so sad. But what's not sad is that we have finally, after, I guess they say 3,000 years, I've heard from 3,000 years to 500 years, but whatever it is, it's a lot. But this was the one, this was the granddaddy of them all, and frankly, I thought this was probably going to be the toughest, and maybe in many ways it was, but we had a lot of good talent. Steve Witkoff, Jared, and Marco, and Pete, and General Kane.
3,000 years, more like 3 million. You don't understand. 3 million years. It's been promised. It's been promised to Israel. It's Israel. Israel. I love the Bible. It's in the Bible. You know me. I'm a big Bible fan. I'm a big Israel fan. I am feeling more confident about the longevity of the ceasefire just because of how much Trump has put his personal brand behind it. Given how hard he's going at owning it, it would be very embarrassing for it to break down now. His statement on Hamas made me feel more confident as well. Yes, this was actually another unique moment where Donald Trump says the quiet part out loud in a way that is so unexpected from any American leadership whatsoever. This was a huge moment. Correspondent goes, Hamas is rearming itself as a police force shooting rivals. What's the message to Hamas? And Donald Trump straight up goes, that's going to happen. They're taking control over the strip. They've been open about it. They have to do it. Many chaotic moments. This has happened so many times with Trump because he just doesn't abide by the normal diplomatic PR trained answers that are required of him in the way that other politicians would. Because of that reason, okay, he will sometimes just say shit that is true, but you would never fucking hear. You would never fucking hear from an American president or even an American politician. He did this with the Houthis. If you remember, he did this with the Houthis. With the Houthis, he was like, yep, they're brave. They're the bravest fighters you've ever seen. The Houthis, they're so brave. They're brave fighters. We couldn't do it. We had to do a deal with the Houthis. They're good fighters. They really got it down, the fighting. And it was shocking when he fucking said that because you just don't expect that from an American president. Or if you remember from many years prior, when Trump was originally running for president in 2016, when he had moments like that a lot more frequently, when he wasn't as like Washingtonian brained, he would say stuff like, I think it was with Bill O'Reilly, where he famously once said like, you know, Putin's got killers. Well, we got killers too. We're not such good guys either. Like, it's stuff like that every now and then comes out of his mouth where you're just like, I never expected an American politician to say that. I've been talking to Palestinians that are still in Gaza. I've been talking to Palestinians that have escaped Gaza. Palestinians who are pro-Hamas, Palestinians who are anti-Hamas. You know what I mean? Like to get a better understanding of the situation in the eyes of the Palestinian public in general. And virtually everyone seems to think that this ceasefire will hold. Like every single person.
Of Hamas rearming, instituting themselves as a Palestinian police force, shooting rivals. What is your message to Hamas?
They are standing because they do want to stop the problems, and they've been open about it, and we gave them approval for a period of time. You have to understand, they've lost probably 60,000 people. That's a lot of retribution. They've lost 60,000 people, and the ones that are living right now were, in many cases, very young when this all started. And we are having them watch that there's not going to be big crime or some of the problems that you have when you have areas like this that have been literally demolished. You know, you have 2 million people, and probably it'll be less than that, but you have close to 2 million people going back to buildings that have been demolished. And a lot of bad things can happen. So we want it to be safe. I think it's going to be fine.
Mr. President,
who knows for sure, Katie? But I think it's going to be fine.
Mr. President.
I mean, that right there is straight up one of those That right there is like one of those unique moments where he's just like, yeah, we're letting him do it. Which, by the way, can change at any moment, right? Because like someone on the Israeli side will be like, no, we have to fucking use that back and forth conflict as an opportunity to go back in to the Gaza Strip with the Israeli military, and Trump will turn around and say it, right? So he's saying that the U.S. is approving of Hamas acting as an interim police force, which is probably true, but they would never say that. No, of course it's true. Obviously, like, we're talking about millions of people that live here. They have to have some kind of governance. Otherwise, it's chaos. Of course it's true. Of course it's going to be who already controlled the Strip prior to October 7. They are the only ones with the organizational capacity at this moment. And Israel, knowing full well that there is like sectarian conflict even within the Gaza Strip, with a bunch of criminal elements within the Gaza Strip, have utilized a different clans within the Gaza Strip to actively steal aid and actively fucking shoot at people and create chaos at the point of aid delivery, things of that nature. Like they've been utilizing different factions within the Strip over and over again. So obviously, in order to reassert control in the interim period while the ceasefire continues, the people that are in charge before they actually dissolve are going to do that.
So great. John Ratcliffe was incredible. We had an amazing array of talent, and we were helped by, in particular, the countries represented at this table. I will say, Tamim, you were fantastic, and your country is unbelievable, and I don't think they give you a fair shake. They talk about you as the...
This is good news, but it's Trump. It will flop. Also saying he would have deserved a Nobel Peace Prize is insane. He's a convicted rapist. Don't let this man whitewash his horrid legacy. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. First of all, I don't believe the Nobel Peace Prize is like a valid instrument of justice or peace. Okay? That much is probably clear to you. I've covered it before. I covered it in this past Nobel Peace Prize. Like the recipient was someone who was literally pro-Israel and wants Israel to intervene in Venezuela. Like that's fucking ridiculous, right? It means nothing. Having said that, if that was a primary motivator, I've always said it would be valid. The second thing I also mentioned that you're failing to consider here is that if he had actually come into office and as his first act in office, he literally fucking implemented the ceasefire that's happening right now, but all the way back in January, then it would have been valid. It would have been valid. And the reason why it would have been valid is because he would have, without having his hands bloody on this iteration of the genocide, even though what he had done prior with the Abraham Accords is basically what led to October 7 to begin with, right? But he would have, because the environment would have shifted so much under Biden, that he would have been able to present himself as someone who is actually charting a different course for the trajectory of the Palestinians. He would have been seen as someone who actually went in there and truly stopped the death and destruction. And yet he didn't do that, and he allowed Israel to continue doing death and destruction for another 8-9 months, which is completely unacceptable.
You're not a nice person, and you happen to be a nice person. You happen to live in a little tough neighborhood. You're surrounded by everybody. And without you, this wouldn't have happened. And I just want to thank you very much. That's Qatar. And he's an amazing leader. And another man who's been a friend of mine for a long time. I don't know what it is. I like the tough people better than I like the soft, easy ones. I don't know what the hell that is. It's a personality problem, I suspect. But this gentleman from a place called Turkey has one of the most powerful armies actually in the world. It's much more powerful than he even lets known. If you look.
Oh my God, glaze. So Jeremy and I were talking about Turkey's involvement and what that means, if you remember. And I feel like I didn't actually understand what his question was. And I think there is more to the Turkish involvement and why that's significant that I briefly alluded to in that conversation, but I didn't actually mention or elaborate further on. Turkey is, alongside Qatar, one of the only countries in that region that actively and openly does not say Hamas is a terrorist organization. Okay? They not only host Hamas Politburo members, but they also have a very different position. Despite being under the American security apparatus, the American security umbrella, they will openly state that Hamas is not a terrorist organization, it's a resistance organization. Turkey obviously doesn't feel that way about Hezbollah. There is some other reasons for it. They don't like Iran or anything like that. But when it comes to Hamas, the official position that they have moved forward with is that in spite of their status as a NATO country, they have openly always maintained the position that Hamas is a resistance group, which is the truth, by the way, right? And the reason why the Turkish involvement here was significant is because I think their involvement signaled to Hamas that their involvement in the roundtable negotiations signaled to Hamas that they would be treated more fairly, that they wouldn't be fucked over. Now, I don't trust Erdogan as far as I can throw him. Okay, I don't think he's a trustworthy person, but I clearly the Hamas side, like the Palestinian resistance side in general, made that calculation a little bit differently than myself. Here's some more information on this. Turkey, Qatar, and other regional states would not let Hamas be destroyed despite being verboten in U.S. and U.S.-led countries. Hamas is treated with normal diplomatic protocol in Moscow and Beijing because the group plays an important role in this stage of the larger conflict. Yeah, Gershom Baskin notes how Turkey spy chief Ibrahim Kalın helped Hamas get over the finish line. In conclusion of these first thoughts, President Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Steve Witkoff is a deal maker, and without Witkoff, none of this would have happened. Witkoff speaks for the president. Everyone knows it. Jared Kushner's role at this point was crucial because in the near future, Ron Dermer will be working for Kushner and not for Netanyahu. Bringing Kushner for the final round of negotiations was a brilliant move to neutralize Dermer's defined role of foiling every chance of ending the war. The Turkish head of intelligence very close to Witkoff and to Hamas, and the Turkish intensive role was crucial in putting the pressure on Hamas to agree to the deal and not to walk away from the table.
Look at some of the recent conflicts. He was at the top of them, and he was winning them, and he did win them. And he doesn't want any credits. He doesn't want anything. He just wants to be left alone. He's a tough cookie, but he's been my friend. And every time I've ever needed him, he's been there for me. So I just want to thank President Erdogan, Turkey. Because he is difficult. They call me. They said, would you do me a favor? Could you speak to Erdogan? And I do, and he never fails us, right, General? He never fails. He's amazing. So I just want to thank you for the friendship. It's great. Thank you very much. And then, of course, we have the host tonight, and I just want to thank you very much. There was a reason we chose Egypt, because you were very helpful, and very, very helpful. Everybody wanted to have this, but we really thought it was appropriate. And you are a great leader. You have very little crime. You have problems that other countries don't have. And of course, nothing's perfect, but the job you do is amazing, and I want to thank you. Another one, you've been my friend right from the beginning. During the campaign against crooked Hillary Clinton.
Oh my God, I can't believe that this motherfucker's talking about crooked Hillary Clinton in Sharm el-Sheikh, bro. Oh God. I love how the FIFA president was invited to this, by the way. Yeah, you got Macron in the background too. All the best boys, all the besties are here, okay?
We were both downstairs waiting to go up to meet this gentleman who has a place called Egypt, the oldest civilization. They say 6,000 years. China is 5,000 years, but you're actually number one, 6,000 years. Can you believe it? But the oldest, they say, civilization. But so I want.
That's your president, my guy. I can't believe it. Every day that passes by and I see how people behave on the internet, I understand why he's the president. I think I think this is the best it's going to get. I think he is reflective of how Americans are.
I have to meet him first. We like each other so much that she waited for about an hour and a half. And I think your meeting lasted about 2 minutes with her. So I always remembered that. But that was our first meeting. We had great chemistry together. And he's a fantastic man and a fantastic general, by the way. But he's a great president. Egypt and all of your representatives for treating us all so well. So we're really representative of a whole group of nations, and they're sitting behind us, and you know most of them. I can tell you this guy's got so much money. They all have so much money. There's more money and power sitting behind us. I love that they're behind us. We've never been sitting behind anybody before. This is a very unique position for them, but they are.
Netanyahu canceled his trip to Egypt. Oh, yeah. So Netanyahu's, here it is. This is senior Middle East correspondent for I-24 News. Ariel Osaran says Netanyahu's decision to cancel his trip to Sharm el-Sheikh came following opposition by numerous countries that presumed Egypt to prevent Netanyahu from attending the Gaza Peace Summit, an Arab source tells I-24. So he wasn't initially invited. Donald Trump actually wanted him to come. And all of the other countries that are involved, especially the ones that are in the region, did not want Netanyahu there because I think they just didn't want to. They didn't want to be seen side by side with Netanyahu. They didn't want to be seen like shaking his hand or anything like that. And then he basically was disinvited quickly. The source stated that countries such as Turkey, Spain, Iraq, South Africa, and others claimed that since they do not allow Netanyahu to fly over their territory due to the ICC arrest warrant against them, therefore he should not be invited to the summit and seen in their midst. Sources close to Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas relayed messages to Cairo that this is not the time for a handshake with Netanyahu, the source said. Additionally, a group of journalists organized in Egypt sought to join forces with the Hind Rajab Foundation to examine the possibility of contacting a local Egyptian court to issue an arrest warrant against Netanyahu. According to the Arab source, following internal consultations mainly with the security establishment, it was decided to avoid the embarrassment and Netanyahu canceled his trip to Egypt. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's trip to Sharm el-Sheikh summit was conceived during his ride with President Trump from Ben Gurion Airport to the Knesset in Jerusalem, according to a source familiar with the details. When I spoke with President Trump while he was on Air Force One en route to Israel, he didn't know that Netanyahu hadn't been invited to the summit and said that the Egyptians were the ones responsible for the invitations. During the ride to the Knesset in the Beast, Trump told Netanyahu that he should attend. The source noted that Netanyahu agreed. A senior U.S. official said that afterwards, President Trump began mediating between Egyptian President al-Sisi and Netanyahu. The two haven't spoken since the start of the war in Gaza. Trump called the Egyptian president and asked him to invite Netanyahu to the summit. Shortly after, Sisi called Netanyahu and invited him. Netanyahu accepted the invitation. Then they disinvited him. And the reason why is because what the fuck do you think is supposed to happen? Obviously, it's a little crazy for Qatar to just like sit there and shake Benjamin Netanyahu's hand, right? Also, this shows you exactly where Sisi is. Donald Trump says jump. He says how high. Donald Trump says bark. Sisi gets on his hands and knees and barks. Remember.
Seriously, they're among the most powerful countries in the world, the richest countries in the world, and there's never been really an assemblage like what we have today. I don't think I've never seen it anyway. And I want to thank everybody for being with us. Man, I just solved the war for him. Azerbaijan. Oh, did I do a good job? Where did you come picture here? Where is there he is? You guys are still getting along, right? We fought for 32 years. In about 1 hour, we settled it, right? And they like each other now, too. That's great. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. Italy, she's a very strong ruler. He's doing a great job. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much. But we're actually going to be making a speech after this, so this is just a very important signing. But we're doing a signing, then we're doing a speech, and then I may stay behind with the leaders just to talk about that some things without the press. I want to thank the media for you've been so respectful on this deal. You know the importance of the deal, and I really
is just happy that the media is like saying this is good. That like a ceasefire is a good thing. He's like, finally, they're being so nice to me.
It was so pleasant to watch. I was on the plane for quite a while listening to the various newscasts, and they were all fair. They were talking about how incredible this is. This is an incredible day for the world, let alone the Middle East. So I just wanted to thank the media. They really treated it with respect. I wish you could be like that on other things, but That's perhaps too much to ask for, but on this tremendous, everybody feels the same. Just tremendous respect, and we appreciate it very much. Can we get the documents, please? Okay.
You'll sign right here.
Okay.
Pretty funny that Trump is signing anything. Like, officially, the U.S. isn't a party of the conflict. So what the hell is he signing? Come on, man. It's time to get real. You know what I mean? First of all, technically, none of the people here are official parties to the conflict. But it doesn't matter. Everybody knows the truth. Everybody knows the truth. And it's not what Trump is saying with his mouth when he says, like, oh, this has been going on for 3,000 years. We've put an end to it. Everybody understands that, of course, it's America that is, like, primarily involved in this. Why else do all of these other fucking countries also sit idly by as this seemingly sovereign foreign state that is a settler colonial enterprise smack dab in the middle of this fucking resource-rich region is capable of being belligerent and attacking 7 fucking countries at the same time, including some of those fucking people that are there. Remember, Israel directly bombed Qatar, okay? A month ago. Everybody understands why you just have to shut the fuck up. Everybody understands why you just have to sit there and be like, yes, Mr. President, you're doing a great job, Mr. President. Thank you so much, Mr. President. We love you, Mr. President. It is what it is.
Nobody can even believe it, that we're sitting here and getting this all certified out and all done, and everybody's happy about it. Everybody's happy about it, like I've never seen before, actually. I've done other deals, and people don't care as much.
Jesus
big
Christ.
deals. I think they're big deals, but this is something that's taken off like a rocket ship. And it did from the beginning, and I've heard for years, this is the biggest deal, it'll never happen. For years, long before I ran for office, that this is the Middle East. It's
I cannot stress this enough. The Democrats literally wrap this up as a gift. Not only did they lose the election in part because of their lack of interest in doing this, but the very fact that they didn't do this and then Trump came into office and then did this, especially if it holds, okay, especially if it holds, is just a spectacular fumble. A spectacular fumble. And I don't want to hear it from any of the fucking liberals in the chat that would normally come in here and say shit like, oh, you know, you're just like shitting on the liberals. They have no power in this situation. They had all of the power when they were in charge. Okay. And they didn't, I can't even say they squandered the power, because it doesn't seem like they squandered the power at all. It seems like they wanted this to continue happening. Now the entire fucking world thinks that Donald Trump was capable of bringing about peace in the aftermath of 2 years of genocide. Here, this is Barack Ravid, but Barack Ravid with the scoops once again. IDF's very own Barack Ravid. Direct meeting between Trump envoys and Hamas leaders sealed the Gaza deal. An unusual and dramatic meeting between President Trump's envoys and Hamas leaders helped get the Gaza peace deal across the line. 3 sources with direct knowledge tell Axios why it matters. One barrier to a deal was that Hamas leaders feared Israel would resume the war once its hostages were freed. In order to deliver a deal, one of the sources contended, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner had to meet the Hamas leaders in person and directly assure them that Trump won't let that happen as long as the group held up its side of the deal. A day earlier, Trump had privately granted permission for Witkoff and Kushner to meet Hamas leaders if necessary to seal a deal when they met in the Oval Office before the pair departed for Egypt. After arriving in Sharm el-Sheikh, Witkoff informed the Qatari and Egyptian and Turkish mediators about Trump's green light. On Wednesday night around 11 p.m. local time, the Qatari mediators came to Witkoff's villa at the Four Seasons, said there was a stalemate in the talks, and asked if the U.S. envoys were ready to meet Hamas, according to one of the sources. We think that if you meet them and shake their hand, there will be a deal, a senior Qatari official told Witkoff. Behind the scenes, several minutes later, Witkoff and Kushner walked into another villa at the Red Sea Resort. Arrayed inside were the Egyptian and Turkish intelligence chiefs, senior Qatari officials, and 4 most senior Hamas leaders involved in the negotiations. The Hamas team was led by Khalil al-Hayya, who had survived an Israeli assassination attempt in Doha 3 weeks earlier. In a meeting lasting around 45 minutes, Witkoff told the Hamas officials the hostages were now more of a liability than an asset for you. It was time to move on with the first phase of the deal and bring people home on both sides of the border, he said, according to one of the sources. Al-Hayya asked if Witkoff and Kushner had a message from Trump. President Trump's message is that you will be treated fairly and that he stands behind all 20 points of his peace plan and will make sure that they're all implemented, Witkoff said, according to the source. When the meeting ended, the Hamas leaders went to a separate room with the Egyptian, Qatari, and Turkish mediators. Several minutes later, Egyptian spy chief Hassan Rashad returned with his Turkish and Qatari counterparts. Based on the meeting we have a deal, he told Witkoff and Kushner. Flashback, the meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh was the second significant direct engagement between the Trump admin and Hamas. In March, U.S. hostage envoy Adam Baylor held an unprecedented meeting with Hamas leaders in Doha in an effort to free American hostage Idan Alexander and retrieve the bodies of 4 other Americans kidnapped by the group. The deal faltered in part due to strong opposition from the Israeli government, which was initially in the dark about the direct negotiations. The bottom line, the willingness of Witkoff and Kushner to meet Hamas leaders despite the political risks involved demonstrated to the group that the U.S. was serious about getting and enforcing a deal, one of the sources contended. This is why when President Trump's envoys gave their word that this deal will be fully enforced, they believe it. It seems to me like the barbaric monsters in the way that they were presented were seen as much more reasonable than the way that they're presented in the media, right?